welcome back to another video. I kind of came to film this car, which if anyone remembers was an ex front cover max power car, but then the owners slipped in this super rare Courtenay converted 1.8 turbo. So let's dive in and let's have a look at these two beautiful Astra GTE Mark IIs.
Yeah, be careful of this. I have knocked myself out the last trip. Not the right bumper on there at the minute. Same with the grills and same with the rear spoiler.
I'm here to, because actually I remember it. And I remember you put, because was you on MIG web? Because I remember it coming on MIG web. So much better on turbo cars. The bit of lag you have and the pull, and it's all in here, it's lovely.
I made the exhaust myself.
Right.
Yeah, stuck some tube together and it works.
It works, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Because I've got metal brackets holding the exhaust on, you get a lot of vibration. It's literally, so you get up to over 65 mile an hour and it starts to make some right.
Plastic one.
Oh yeah,
you're not going shopping in it, are you? You're going out to put a smile on your face and show people you're coming.
Exactly, yeah.
That's what it's for. Never would have thought I was in these cars that I followed 20 years ago. I remember being late teens and seeing the magazine Max Power with this car on the front cover. And to look forward and think I'll be in that car in the future, it's mind-blowing. So when they did the body conversion, putting the tunnel in and all that, was it done well? Or did you end up stripping the shell back and going, oh my god, I should have started me old?
I redid everything.
Right.
Put new brackets on it. Yeah, loads of stuff. There was massive great holes and bits cut away and whatever.
So was it advertised as the X-Max power car?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, 2010 I bought it. And it took me that long to build it.
So obviously I'm a bit overwhelmed because to see one Astra GTE is a rarity, but to see two Astra GTEs in the same spot and two what I would class as probably the most iconic pair together is quite mind-blowing. So I'm going to start off with the black one. Look at the paintwork, it's absolutely stunning. There's a few bits to finish off, they're still being restored as we speak. So to dive into the history of this car, it was Kawasaki green. It was, I think it was, there was a Kawasaki Superbike next to it on the chute as well. This was, I think, advertised as on the magazine as 300 horsepower 4-wheel drive Calibra turbo swap. And what you have to remember is back in probably 95, 96, maybe a bit later than that, Calibra turbos were like brand new. So to be able to put a full 4-wheel drive system and engine into an Astra GTE would have cost an absolute arm and a leg back then. So that's why this thing was quite iconic. And then also with it being, you know, it was a luminous Kawasaki green, I also remember it had a giant whale tail on the back, like off a Escort Cosworth or something like that. What's nice is, back in the day, obviously, of the Max Power era, these cars were built and they weren't built to last. They were built to look good, They were built to stand out, and especially to be on the front cover. You know, they weren't made to last forever. So a lot of them were crushed, a lot of them never made it. But what's been nice, if this one was found in a scrapyard, advertised as the max power car, as a rolling shell, as a 4-wheel drive. And Chris, who now owns it, has done a beautiful job of restoring it, and it's really nice that someone's taken the passion to take one of these old max power cars and revive it. Because from memory, and we've been talking about it, it had all flared arches, it was really in your face, this car, and to bring it back to subtle, still usable, really nice classic Astra GTE look, you would never know. You would see it at a show and you'll probably never even realise it was that car from the magazine. So let's open the door, let's have a look what's been done inside. Now it's gone back to the classic Astra GTE look with the factory, you know, the factory digital dash, the 16 valve steering wheel. Everything is really, really nicely put back together to factory. And then the rarest thing, anyone who knows Mark II GTEs will know that that is phenomenally rare. With the little nets on the headrests. I can only remember probably 10 years ago, they were about 700-800 quid back then. So I dread to even think how much a full leather, you know, GT interior is nowadays, because they were so collectible and they were so snapped up so fast. Obviously, as the feature will have said on the max power, it was a Calibra turbo running around 300 horsepower. Again, back in the day, to make 300 horsepower on these engines, it was basically a chipset. Probably, you know, the turbos would take 300 horsepower, but again, nowadays, with these engines getting a bit older, you need to obviously recondition to make it better. In here now is the factory Calibra turbo. It does have a forged engine sat at the side, which possibly at some point he'll put in. But if I say that he bought this shell for probably a rolling shell with the 6-speed gearbox for the price of today's money of a 6-speed gearbox on its own. So what makes this one so special is the F28 gearbox. There's the transfer box for the 4-wheel drive system. So this was, from memory, I remember watching this being restored on a site called MigWeb. Now that's going back a few years. MigWeb was a forum way before Facebook and social media where people would go and they'd post up the projects, the builds and everything else. So I remember this one being bought, rolling into the garage and basically being stripped to near enough a bare shell and fully restored back up on a spit, underneath, refabricated everything. It was really nice to watch it. And then obviously when MigWeb died off because social media started, you never really followed the word the cars went or what happened to them because people just moved on. So it's been nice to now see the final product of this being finished. There's still a few bits to odds and ends to do, but to stand in front of it, it's certainly lovely. So this is where the magic happens. This is what made this at the time rare. And you've got to think of even today, how many 4-wheel drive Astra GTEs is there on the road or built? There can't be many. And this was done, you know, in the 90s. So to see it back restored and back being used, and honestly being in it works, there's no like diff stress problems, you know. As a modified car, this is certainly a usable vehicle. Full Calibra arms, Calibra shafts, modified uprights by looks things. I think they're Calibra, an ATL plastic fuel cell, and again, even under rear, it's beautiful and clean. Gas coilovers all around, what looks like a 2.5-3 inch exhaust all the way through. It's been made to be a usable 300 horsepower, fun, Sunday kind of run around to put a smile on your face. So let's now get onto the white GTE, because I just want to sit in this car and smell the nostalgia of it. So I've just sat in this one and it brings back a lot of memories. As stupid as this sounds, but people who know these cars will understand. It just smells like a clean old Vauxhall from new, and the memories hit you. Some people understand that, where they have a certain smell and it takes you back 10 years to a certain moment. It just made me smile inside. So this is a really rare one. Going back to when, you know, back in the day where they were tuning companies were teamed up with main dealer factory like Dimmer, who would sell their Dimmer products through Peugeot dealerships. Turbo Technics used to sell their products through Ford. This was the Courtenay Sport iteration, and they teamed up with a company called Pace, and they did an off-the-shelf brand new model you could buy from factory, to my knowledge, a 1.8 turbocharged Astra GTE, which back in the day there can't have been many of these built, and definitely even today there can't be many of these left on the road. So to find these two together has been a, you know, a once in a lifetime find for any Astra GTE or even any Vauxhall fanatic. This one has been fully restored in the early 2000s. It's a House of Colour white, so it's not a Vauxhall white, but it really, listen, that the shine on this in the sun is stunning, and it really pops out as the white more than, I think it's Glacier white that they come factory. But anyway, let's dive in and have a look inside, and have a look and take a bit of nostalgia. So the interior, again, it's in beautiful condition, and it just smells so fresh and nice, like you've just been to the Vauxhall dealership back in the day and picked up your new Vauxhall. Digital dash, all the nice factory options, really nice interior, clean as they come. Really beautiful in there. And like I say, to show you the paintwork, how beautiful is the paintwork on these things. I'm so chuffed to be able to see these and see that with a good owner who looks after them and maintains them to a really nice standard. Little things that, again, going back to the paintwork, this was painted originally by Charisma, and I'm being told if you go back to Pimp My Ride, when Charisma did Pimp My Ride UK, this car is in the background. This used to be vinyl on the GTEs, now that's painted on. Diving into the engine bay, so this is the 1.8 Courtenay turbo conversion, and like I said, they teamed up with a company called Pace. Pace got very big, I think early 2000s, I think it's still going now to be fair, in aluminium fabrication, intercoolers, and like I say, as you can see, just a tiny little intercooler along the front, but again, they made adaptations to the manifolds to take from looking at it, probably like a T20 something like that turbo, basically a low PSI turbo, just to increase the horsepower on these things, to make them a little bit more special. Because again, they were all doing it back then. Turbo Technics were doing twin turbo conversions. I've even seen a Turbo Technic 205, Turbo Technic XR2s, and everyone was jumping on the bandwagon of doing tuner cars direct from factory. This was one of them. Adjustable fuel regulator, I would have guessed, so that can you run off inlet vacuum, and it's still on factory injectors, but I can't really see. I think they are on factory injectors, or in fact they might look like they're on LET yellows injectors. This one has had a full rebuild by the lads at PEC. Rods, LET pistons, basically to make it a lot more reliable. The first thing I picked up on, which is very sad from putting my head under here, is the electrical cable which runs down the dipstick. Now that would be either for electrical, for oil pressure possibly, oil level, but that's something I have never seen on any of these cars before. Whether that's factory, I have no idea. If anyone else has seen more of these, please comment and let me know. Pace intercooler, which obviously came down here, which this, even today, a nice, you know, it's all cast nice and thin to fit down that side. It's a lot of work to make it fit, and especially back in the day when they used to run all the old MAF sensors, to tune that to take the additional fuel in. It'd been interesting to see what they had to do with the factory ECU to make this work. But again, it's a credit to see this after all these years with the Max Power GTE, as the pair of them, with the same owner, being looked after and still being maintained today. So I'm going to sign this one off. He's just literally now going for another drive because it's a beautiful day. Going out for a run in the 1.8. We swapped over. So it's been a real experience to see the two beautiful Astra GTEs. And to say them two are probably some of the rarest ones there is. From the Max Power GTE to the Courtenay Turbo. We do think that's probably one of only a small handful of 1.8 turbos Courtenay did. If you know any more, get in touch, because the owner would be interested to see how many was made, because we think that thing is one of the rarest GTEs there is. So I'm going to sign this one off. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.